Hey everyone, today I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. I'm going to be post-commentating all of my Smogon Masters replays. Now, this is something that's new for the channel. I don't really do post-commentaries, but since there's just such a large amount of games in this tournament, I thought this would make a pretty cool video. So, just to explain the tournament, it is a Swiss bracket in which you play Gens 6, 7, and 8, best of 3, and you need a score of 8 wins and 2 losses or better to qualify into a top 32 top cut. Okay, so as I said, I'm going to be going over these post playing them. It's been several months since these games happened, and I haven't watched the replays since then, so this is going to be a casual video. If you just want to put this on in the background and hear me talk about Gens 6, 7, and 8, or just feel like watching a bunch of replays, then this is probably the video for you. So we'll get into the first round of Smogon Masters with a Gen 8 game. Now I'm playing Z-Ryan74, who's a player that I've played many games with, and it's kind of neat because of that. We both sort of knew our styles and what we like to play, so this was an interesting game to prepare for. Now, I knew that Z-Ryan was primarily a Gen 7 player and hadn't played a whole lot of Gen 8, so I built this team specifically to counter the type of team I thought he would bring. It's kind of a double electric spam with Bulk Up, Zeraora, and Calm Mind Coco, because a lot of newer players will basically use these balance offenses that have like Landorus or Garchomp as a ground resist, but they have other roles on the team and they can get easily toxic or worn down. And when that happens, one of CM Coco or Bulk Up Zeraora can clean up. So I built this team, and that was the idea surrounding that. So yeah, let's just get into the game and we'll see how this team turned out. Okay, so Garchomp lead into Lando. I didn't want him SDing, so I just went for an Earthquake, EQ on Heatran, which is on a balloon. I just click Stealth Rocks and U-turn out of there. Unfortunately, getting Flame Body Burn, that's very big because it's my only Zeraora answer. He misses a Toxic on my Slowbro, which is pretty beneficial. And here I just go for a Scald on the Tapu Fini. Scald looks good into him. Now I have to be cautious about this sub Fini, so I immediately teleport out to see what he's going to do. And here is where I start clicking Calm Mind. And now I feel like I'm in a good position. His Garchomp and his Landorus are both significantly threatened by the incoming Dazzling Gleam. Like, that's really good damage for me. And he's forced to go for the EQ there. Does a lot. Makes me think it's like Soft Sand or something. And then he explodes and KOs my Slowbro, but I'm like, okay, well, Zera has, or my Coco has Roost. It can set up on the Zera, so I'm honestly fine with that Lando going down. So I bring out my Victini and just U-turn into Lando because I don't really have another Heatran answer. I thought he'd switch out there because this is a resist to the impending Coco sweep, but he does let it stay in, and I U-turn out, keeping this as a sack, which maybe wasn't the best idea, but again, I thought he would try to save this Heatran. Gets a Toxic on me. I miss another Hurricane into the Zera. So now it's time for what exactly do I do about Zera? Well, I have a Boots Will-O-Wisp Victini, which can live anything from that. Or my mistake, it was a Toxic Victini. That's part of the team, is to like Toxic those Landos and stuff and wear them down for Coco and Zera. So now I have another opportunity to bring out Tapu Koko, and I'm like, okay, he's going into the Heatran. This is looking good, assuming that's an offensive Garchomp. Thunderbolt, fine. And then Roselli Berry. I'm like, what the heck? Why is there a Roselli Berry? So this game just got tremendously harder, as he has a significant Pokemon lead over me, and his Zera is basically a huge threat, and I think this is pretty much just going to come down to if my Zera can beat his Zera in the 1v1. So let's see what happens. We're both clicking bulk up. I win the first tie, he wins the second tie. He clicks knockoff, does a lot. I click knockoff. He bulks up again, and this is the speed tie I really need to win, but I don't. If I won that speed tie, I would have won the game, but that's not what happened, and now Weavile is just going to finish me off. And he's revealed to be a Life Orb Weavile, so that's definitely going to KO Victini. Yeah, so that is how I lost the Gen 8 game to a Roselli Berry Garchomp. Okay. Now this is the Gen 7 game. This is probably the gen that both of us play most, so I knew this one was going to be interesting, but of course I did a bit of scouting beforehand and found that he'd actually posted this team on the forum. So while this game was going on, I was literally looking at this paste, and if I recall correctly, it's not a Thunder Laddie, so my Manaphy looks really, really good into his team. All right, started off Pelipper into Pex, just going to... Oh, I clicked knockoff to make Manaphy's job easier. And T-Spikes are of absolutely no concern for Manaphy. So yeah, I can just go into Manaphy, eats that Scald. Tail Glow there. Yeah, he's already hazing on turn 3, already playing haze games versus Manaphy. Okay, he did get me on the recover there. And this time I think I switched to Ferrothorn because I wanted to set up some hazards. Oh, I tried to get the paralysis on Pex, but it's fine. So yeah, now it's going to be an SR Gliscor, so I'm clicking Defog. Knockoff, I have the eject button, so that's actually beneficial because this turn I can taunt him and then chip him with Hurricane so I don't end up getting my Pelipper knocked off. Yeah, I taunt here as well because I don't want Pelipper coming in on the Toxic. I don't think he is Toxic. I mean... Yeah, I mean, that he's literally, like, revealed all his moves, so... I think I wanted to prevent him setting up the T-Spikes. Alright, Pelipper coming in. And I think just going to Manaphy here makes the most sense. And this is when the most important moment of the game happens. He gets a special defense drop, which is highly unfortunate. Without that drop, Manaphy would have immediately become a serious threat. But since he doesn't have anything major to hit me, I can just KO him with Hydro Vortex. Cresselia comes in, that's not a concern. And basically Manaphy is just going to sweep. I think that was like a Psychic Ice Beam Laddie rather than like Psychic Draco, as I think I said at the beginning. But yeah, this matchup is just so cooked for Ryan at this point. Like, Manaphy is absolutely ridiculous in this tier, and spoilers, I end up using it a lot more in my Masters run. Alright, so let's get into Gen 6. I'm bringing one of my favorite hazard stacks, and it looks like Z Ryan is bringing some sort of semi-stall team with a Metagross. So we both have Cofagrigus, so this is going to be a hazard war. I instantly start off with Poison and Burn. That's fine. Burning Olo is very nice. I Wisp again in case he tries to do something risky and go Gliscor, but he doesn't. Alright, set up hazards. I set up T-Spikes just so his Coffin is going to get poisoned, and it'll be easier for me to spin with Drill if it comes to that. Ferrothorn into Cofagrigus. I don't want mine to get burned. He ends up just setting up Toxic Spikes, though. I think I'm threatening Hex here, and that's why he switches. And I get the Alo in, and that's perfect for me. Chansey's coming in, and that's with the Volt Switch and the Poison, that's now a significant amount of chip. Not only that, I can go Excadrill and threaten Stealth Rocks or Spin. So I'm kind of surprised I didn't go Cofagrigus there, because that's what's those hazards staying up is really what's preventing me from just winning with my Weavile and my Lopunny. And this time I get the spin off, and I think that represents a significant turning point in the game, because now his Chansey and his Cofagrigus, both of his hazard setters, are seriously chipped. And this is a... Oh, okay, I don't think that the interaction happens yet. I think that's actually in a future set, but there's a funny thing that happens with Mummy and Poison. Okay, so Chansey tries to come in again, but I now have Weavile to threaten a huge knockoff. Yeah, so Skarmory getting its helmet knocked off is really nice. Skarm comes in, and now is the time where we are just going to straight up hazard stack on each other. But I think I have the advantage in this scenario because my Thundurus is severely threatening to him, whereas his team is very passive. Alright, I get a bit of health back with Coffin, but it will die upon another entry unless I click Pain Split here, which is what I do, which reduces the health of that Alomomola significantly. Chansey comes back in, takes an absolutely ridiculous amount of chip. And I think I can go, yeah, Drill is fine here. Pain Split would have also been an option, but I think Drill is a little more proactive just because of how much chip it forces if he goes into his Coffin. And there he does. And I get the EQ off. So since his Cofagrigus is basically dead, this gives me a significant advantage. Iron Head there just to catch the Glisk, and I think I spin here, and essentially I have a tremendous advantage at this point with all the hazards up on his side and none of the hazards up on my side. He's going to have an incredibly difficult time getting past my breakers. So yeah, now I basically just need to land an Ice Skull Crash to be in a phenomenal position, but he switches out the +2 attack Gliscor, which is all good. Metagross comes in, takes a ton of chip, and I'm just going to go to my Ferrothorn to make that take even more chip. Gliscor comes in once again, click Leech Seed, and a Leech-Seeded SD Gliscor is going to have a very difficult time making progress. So I'll just go into my Thundurus because it has Hidden Power Ice, and the Volt Switch here is easily going to finish off this Chansey. So yeah, this is really showing the power of hazards. And Thundurus is just going to absolutely take down the rest of this team with, yeah, like Thunder Waves and Volt Switching and Hidden Power Ice, and he basically just doesn't have any offensive pressure left. So yeah, Hidden Power Ice there. Roost. He is taking damage. He cannot roost off all the damage from Hidden Power Ice. Neither can Alomomola regenerate all the damage it's taking, so this is definitively a victorious cycle for me. Yeah, and he realizes he cannot win, and that is my first round of Smogon Masters. All right, so let's get into the second round. This is versus Caesar, who is another player that I've teamed with before, and he is quite skilled, although when I was scouting his Gen 8 replays, I noticed he was quite weak to toxic spikes. So I brought this stall team, and let's just see how this goes. Like, you can already see his team is looking pretty bad against T-spikes and against stall in general. So yeah, he leads Lando, and I'm just gonna prioritize getting up those T-spikes. Yeah, he poisons my hippo, but that's not really a huge deal, because I do have Heal Bell on this team. I'm getting up my hazards. So far, I would say a good opening for me, aside from the fact that my Tox Specs is a little bit low, but I'm just gonna get that recovered as he rocks. I am Shed Shell, so I have absolutely no fear of Heatran, and now this Zapdos is presenting itself as a threat because it can Volt Switch on everything other than Hippo, and Hippo is poisoned, so I'll need to get that decently healthy. I end up knocking off Lando Leftovers, he EQs. I end up clicking Heat Wave there for a bit of extra chip. Heavy Duty Boots get knocked off. And this is when I go back into Hippowdon, because I think he's going to click Roost. I don't think he's clicking Hurricane again. So I am going to try to get some health back on this guy. And he misses Hurricane, which is probably the best outcome possible for me on that turn. He does it again. And he predicts me on that turn, but he misses, which is quite beneficial to me. And I tried to poison him because Zapdos is kind of a major threat, but that didn't work out, unfortunately. Back into the designated Heatran counter and Shed Shell Pex, but I gotta switch right back out into Clef. He clicks Defog, but this is the Mon that has the move that will heal Hippowdon, so I've already gotten some decent chip on his team, and I'm happy that Hippowdon is going to get healed. So Bulu comes out, and I think, yeah, I expected Choice Banded rather than SD, so that's why I protected there, and I'll go AG. Perhaps in hindsight, maybe that wasn't as necessary because SD would have been an urgent threat, but I was unaware Clefable, so he would have certainly at least gotten some chip. Although, him having Horn Leech, that would have been really, really scary as well. Especially if he outsped Aegislash, that would have been a major threat. Anyway, Hippowdon is back, which is excellent. And I'm getting rocks back up. And yeah, I thought he might go for like a high horsepower there, which is why I went into Clef so I could go into Aegislash safely. And I kind of thought, well, maybe I don't really need Clef anymore. It did its job unless I let the Hippo get poisoned again, which I don't intend to do. I should be okay. Heatran actually reveals Lava Plume, so it's probably not even Magma Storm. I set up my T-Spikes again for that Bulu and that Urshifu. I think, yeah, I just Scald here, because his team at this point doesn't really have a good Scald switch in. Make a double to Suicune there, which is looking very threatening. And I think he'll Roost, and I can take Volt Switches, and I can even rest off Thunder Wave, so that's why I went for a Calm Mind there. And he switches into Heatran, which is just the perfect opportunity for me to click Sub. Oh, no, I don't click Sub there. I actually click Scald, I guess because he could still go into Zapdos. Or perhaps even have Roar if he's Lava Plume. So Urshi comes out, goes for the U-turn, Heatran comes out, and I just click Scald again, because I'm just trying to do as much damage as I can with this Pokemon. I didn't want him to be like Choice Band and close combat me. Alright, and yeah, he just gave me Grassy Terrain support. So, yeah, Suicune is looking like it's about to wreck this team. Yeah, he manages to KO it, but I think it's too late. Grassy Terrain helping me again. Although he defogs it away, it does give me an opportunity to burn him, which doesn't happen. And at this point, I basically just need to keep my Pex and Hippo in decent condition, so I don't lose. U-turn on the Poison Shifu, and make it even more chipped with that Sandstream. Surging Strikes on the Pex. Not gonna do anything, it's gonna damage the Bulu more than me. And basically, the rest of his team is just gonna get stalled out and he forfeits. Alright, and for the Gen 7 game, I decided to go in with T-Spikes again, with a full hazard stack, known as Celestial Alignment, but this is my particular version with Roar Latias, no defog. It's basically just supposed to maximize hazard stacking. Alright, so he leads with Victini. I lead with Glisk. I don't have Protect on this team. He clicks Trick. We're both Scarf. That's fine. I kind of expected a Final Gambit there, so I'm fine with that. And I trick Lando a Scarf, which is going to really, really annoy it over the course of this game. And then he goes into Kyurem, which is like his main breaker. And he clicks Sub, and that's like, oh man, what is this thing gonna do? But usually they only have the Sub Home Claws Kyurem only have the Freeze Shock and a Fusion Bolt. And with that knowledge, I can actually kind of hazard stack up on him because of what you see is about to happen. I even get a little bit more lefties recovery there. So I go into Gliscor, and yeah, there's the Freeze Shock, because I know he actually can't touch my Gliscor in one turn, and I just get rocks for free there. And he's forced to click Fusion Bolt on my Lati, and the Roar comes off, and I have max hazards. And unless that Lando is Stealth Rock Defog, these hazards are not coming off. And the archetype of team he's using is just really, really weak to hazards. And even if he did have defog, he's going to have a hard time actually keeping the hazards off with his Choice Scarf Lando. So Magearna comes in. This could be Shift Gear, but it's probably AV, given that the Kyurem already used the Z, and I feel like this team needs another special pivot, and this is not really going to present a threat to my Toxapex, and his team is just absolutely getting destroyed by hazards. At this point, if I were him, I would think there's very little hope left, because everything just gets poisoned at this point, and Trick even just fails on the Victini there. Hoopa comes in, which is really like one of the last remaining threats. I just toss in my Gliscor, and that manages to eat the Hyperspace Hole, or its Hyperspace Fury, and KO it with EQ. So now this set is really over. Yeah, he can't really do anything. Okay, on to round 3. Had to take a sip of water from all that talking. Okay, so my round 3 opponent is Luthier, who's a very, very competent tournament player. Played in SPL, World Cup, all that. So I knew that this wasn't going to be an easy game, and we're starting off with Gen 8. He's using a pretty well-known 6 with a ton of variations. So let's just see how this goes. Alright, I start off with Pult on his Weavile, and I do get the U-turn off, but Corv is going to cause me to take some damage because of the helmet. Chomper comes out, and I land the poison on that. That's good for my Lando, my Clefable. It just makes this Garchomp much less of a threat. Especially because it's his rocker, and now that his rocker is on a timer, that's just a really good thing. Okay, so I go into my Heatran, which I'm pretty sure is Flame Body, and that is definitely a CB Weavile. I decide to keep the Heatran sack and instead lose my item on Lando, and I actually get in Lele here, which I think he revealed Scarf or Shifu there, or no, I think that looks like banded U-turn damage and Specs psychic damage from my side. I think this is like a dual Specs team that I brought. Yeah, so I once again keep the Heatran sack and go into Clef, but he actually stays in and clicks Knockoff. I was thinking he'd go into Corviknight or Melmetal, but him staying in and clicking Knockoff there was a very good play. That was really, really tough for me. So Urshi is just going to do a ton of damage to Garchomp, protected by its protective pads, and I'm actually going to be able to take it out, which is the end of him getting up rocks in this game. So I don't get rocks because of his Weavile predict, but he doesn't get rocks either. Alright, Corviknight's coming out. I can just U-turn on that and get in my Clefable. I actually para it here, because I thought he'd either Roost or go Slowking, and Para is just good into either of those. Alright, but at this point, like, without Heatran, I'm looking really weak into Melmetal, and if I let my Urshifu get chipped, then I'll lose to Weavile, so really it's looking pretty dire. He stays in again, and he is, well, he Thunder Punches there, so he didn't fully land the predict, but I definitely would have liked to get damage on something else on that U-turn. Now I get damage onto Dragapult, which does make it die to a Weavile Ice Shard at this point. Although I get a pretty strong Shadow Ball off, I don't think it's really going to be enough. I do manage to land this predict, getting Urshi into Weavile. And barely miss out on the KO with the Surging Strikes, which was very, very rough, because otherwise my Pulse would have actually looked really good. And he switches it out, rightly fearing the Aqua Jet, so good play on his part. Corviknight's going to take down my Lele, and at this point my resources in this game are getting really, really exhausted. Like, he has a full health Urshifu, and mine is not looking so healthy. Yeah, only 52. Well, I do get an EQ hit off. Him having that Weavile still around is probably what's going to end up losing me the game. I probably would have lost anyway, I think, just because of the health that he has on his Urshifu and his Slowking, but it would have been a tighter game for sure. Because I do manage to get that KO here. Like, and he should have Aqua Jet, but yeah, he's just going to Surge. I think it's probably Scarf on this team. I think I had to hope he, like, threw and clicked Aqua Jet or something. Yeah. And yeah, that's just going to KO my Dragapult. So that's game 1 against Luthier, lost, and we'll get into Gen 7 which is yet again me using a rain team. Now, this team definitely has some threats on it, like Curem Black isn't too fun for rain. Weavile can be a little bit tough. Scizor isn't very fun. Tapu Fini can be annoying. All these threats are certainly manageable, but not always easy, and you'll see that in this game. Alright, so I lead Ferrothorn into his Weavile and just throw off a Para. Torn here is going to come in and be able to defog. He stays in, goes for a Magma Storm, which is all good with me. I get to go out into Pelipper. And now Swampert is in, which I determined to be a good early game breaker on this team. But he does stay in just to get some Earth Power chip, which makes me feel, especially with some of his plays last game, that he is quite a risk-taker player. So I get the EQ off, do a lot to his Curem, and lose my Swampert a little bit prematurely on turn 7. But this is a key water resist for his team, so weakening it is very, very good. Now, Surf actually had a chance not to KO that Curem there, so that's why I had to go for the Waterium. And this was a very good play on his part because he can chip my Manaphy a lot, and I'm going to have a problem actually clicking rest on this because Tapu Fini prevents me from falling asleep and therefore prevents me from clicking rest. So it's kind of all down to Greninja at this point to do a lot of the water damage. Stone Edge miss there is fairly lucky. Goes into Ferrothorn, and I think I just click Leech Seed on him first because I know he's going to SD and be a massive threat. Maybe it would have been better to click Thunder Wave initially. Yeah. He does just go into Lando there, but at least Scizor doesn't have an SD and is a little bit chipped, so I think it was a fine play. I Leech again just to keep him low, just to start to get him into that Greninja range. And he U-turns on my Tornadus, chipped to almost 50% now. And I actually get to slow U-turn here, which is very helpful. I bring my Pelly in just so Greninja can do maximum damage. Tapu Fini comes out. And I Roost there, which I'm not sure if that was the best play. It does allow me to click Knockoff here and get rid of the leftovers, as well as come in again. But at least the second Roost gave this Scizor an opportunity. But as long as the Scizor is forced to Roost, I guess I can always go back into Ferrothorn and play the Leech Seed and Paralysis game. Unfortunately, I missed the first Leech Seed, and I just Thunder Wave him that time because things are looking pretty rough into this Scizor, and Paralysis is going to be my main way of doing this. So I go into my Pelipper, which at this point has become my main check to this Scizor, and just Scald, kind of hoping for a Para, and I get it. And that is game 2 of the series against Luthier. Alright, so I'm using the same Gen 6 team that I used versus Z Ryan, and once again my opponent is using a bulky Hazard Sack Semi-Stall, where both of us have a Cofagrigus. So yeah, we both start off by wisping each other. He can threaten Hex on me, but I end up staying in and going for Toxic Spikes. He switches to Clef there. I'm fine getting off a lot of Hex damage. I think, yeah, I just go to Drill here because I'm trying to get Stealth Rocks up. He goes Scarm, which allows me to rapid spin away the Toxic Spike, which is very good for Pokemon like Lopunny and Weavile. But now I'm going to attempt to do what I did previously and start Volt Switching on my opponent when T-Spikes are up, but he catches me with 2 consecutive Whirlwinds, and on both occasions brings out a Pokemon that I don't want to face. Seemingly scared of Icicle Crash flinches, he actually clicks Iron Head there, which gives me an opportunity to bring in my Ferrothorn on the expected Gastrodon, and I'm going to set up another Spike. And now my Hazard game is looking quite good, and he's going to have trouble switching into many of my Pokemon, although less trouble than with the Z-Ryan team, because he has a Clefable. And here's that Mummy interaction that I was telling you about in the Z-Ryan game, is by knocking off my Cofagrigus, his Clefable ends up getting rid of his Magic Guard and taking a lot of damage, which is pretty funny. And now it's a prime opportunity to just click Icicle Crash. Yeah, Icicle Crash is going to do a ton to Chansey. Chansey's going to go down. Thundurus is looking great. The only thing really standing in its way is that Gastro, but his Lopunny is certainly a threat as well. And I make kind of a crazy play. I expected him to go for a Fake Out there, which is why I switched in my own Lopunny, so I could threaten the Fake Out on him and actually attempted to KO this Skarmory. Now, I am adamant Lopunny. He got kind of mad in the chat about that because he thought I was jolly. He thought I just got like a really high roll or something. That wasn't the case. The first high jump kick was a low roll. But of course, I don't need to tell my opponents that I was actually adamant Lopunny. I can just let them be upset. So, yeah. Now is a good opportunity to bring in Thundy, and he reveals Rest Cofagrigus, which is definitely a little bit troubling for me, especially since I missed the Focus Blast on this incoming Gastro, which, if I managed to hit 2, would have 2-hit KO'd. Clefable comes back in. He's really mounting a comeback here, but I am just going to go full on with the Hazard stacking, as he actually ends up setting up a Calm Mind, which I didn't really expect. Calm Mind Blast knockoff is definitely a set, but I don't think it's an amazing set because a lot of the time you just really want that coverage. However, he is going to get a ton of chip on my Excadrill. And as I end up clicking EQ, getting off a Rapid Spin there would have been cool, but I need to continuously chip the Cofagrigus. Now I'm going into Weavile because I do have enough HP to come back in and revenge kill the Clefable, and I can just go for a knockoff now, which is going to KO the Cofagrigus. Now with my Excadrill Iron Head still in play, this is still looking good for me. And I'm basically just going to sacrifice my Ferrothorn and keep spamming Power Whip until I get the opportunity to come into Excadrill. On a turn, he's super low, so he's forced a Soft Boiled there. That was a fine turn to go Drill, and he forfeits. So yeah, that is the tournament set versus Luthier, and we'll move on to the set against Dunox. All right, so for game 1, we've got Gen 6 OU, and my Crawdaunt has a really good matchup here versus his bulkier team. So let's check out this game. Lead with Rotom. Torn just clicks knockoff, and I wisp that because I know it's probably AV, and my Alakazam is going to have a much better time with that wisped. I kind of expected him to go into Clefable. I didn't imagine he'd go hard into Hippo. He just goes back to Torn to absorb the second burn. And I can't remember if I tried to burn him again. No, I get the Volt Switch off, and this time he goes into Clef. Alright, cool. So... Toxic on the Hippo, yeah, because I think Lando has Stealth Rocks, and this is just a Toxic Spin Iron Head, EQ Drill. And on his Stealth Rocks, I have the opportunity to get my Crawdons in. And I get Crab Hammer off. I'm Mystic Water, so I'm just going to Aqua Jet and KO that Clefable. Torn comes back in. I think I'm just going to stay in and click Crab Hammer again. Oh yeah, unfortunately I missed there. Okay, the second Crab Hammer just KOs, so it turned out to be fine. Torn comes in again, misses the Hurricane, which is very, very fortunate for me, and he just goes down to a Crab Hammer just like that. Drill comes out, get a ton of damage off with the Jet, so my Crawdon just got nearly 4 kills onto this team, which is amazing. But he still has a threat in back, which is most likely a Zard X based on his build. He crits me with an Iron Head and then gets a Rapid Spin-Off, which is actually going to chip me pretty significantly for this Charizard to just pick up a KO. And I actually am not too great at revenge killing Charizard, so I have to scare him out, get the Toxic off on his Slowbro, and basically force him to KO himself through stuff like Flare Blitz, Recoil. I get in Rotom just to get more chip with the Volt Switch, go back into Tornadus. Just because it'll regen off the Stealth Rock, and I'm basically just going to keep doing this so that his Charizard never gets a free entry point. And at this point, I can go into Drill because it will live a Scald. However, it gets burned, which is definitely the worst outcome. So I have to go into Zam and click Psychic here, and then he lives at 1 HP and gets off a Dragon Dance. EQs me for the KO, goes in, I go into Torn, he has a Roost, things are looking really bad, but I managed to KO him with the Hurricane, so that's good. So definitely a roller coaster game there. So next we'll get into Gen 7, which is the exact same matchup as the Luthier series, which is funny. Alright, so this time I'm going to lead straight with Ferrothorn and go for the Thunder Wave onto the Heatran. Definitely going to be watching out for that Scizor. And this time I actually do just get the Eject into Heatran, or into Pelipper to set up the rain instantly without any rocks going up. Get up a Tail Glow there, which I was also kind of surprised by that he'd just stay in, but it honestly does make sense since he'd want to get up the rocks. Weavile comes out. Knockoff isn't going to do too much. I'm just going to click Surf. And now Lando comes in. This is a big turn because he EQs. He cannot, or at least has a very low chance to kill me, and I'm going to remain at fairly high HP even after this whole interaction. And now Manaphy has KO'd 3 Pokemon and about to KO a 4th with this Waterium Z, and things are looking really good thanks to Manaphy. So Tapu Fini comes out. I'm just going to go for a Psychic. He's going to go for a Moonblast. Crits me. Go for another Psychic just to chip that Tapu Fini down. And now I go into Pelipper just so I can U-turn into Swampert or Greninja and finish off the game. So yeah, Greninja's what it's going to be, and a few Spec Surfs will win. Yeah, Scizor doesn't even survive that. Alright, so let's go into the next series, which is versus Comp, who is a really good player. And I've got this Volcarona team against their Zard Y Tyranitar Volcanion team. And if this Volcarona gets up enough QDs, it can technically just win. Because I think it has Giga Drain. Anyway, we exchange some glares first. And I click Knockoff, which actually takes out a Meadow Plate, which is kind of interesting. I managed to get an HP Fire off, but I get paired the next turn, and it turns out he has Synthesis, which is a pretty rough matchup for me. I'm just trying to chip this down because it's much better for my T-Tar and Excadrill if it's chipped a little bit. And I also thought he might try to glare the incoming Volcarona. So I get a bit of recovery with the Giga Drain on his Tyranitar. But he, of course, is going to scare me out. I can't really stay in on a T-Tar. But I get a Stone Edge off now, and he KOs me with a Superpower. Now, this is definitely not a play that I was a really big fan of. I actually had Superpower of my own. I should have just gone for it here. I thought he might switch into Serperior or try to do something clever, or even go into Volcanion, but I definitely should have just clicked Superpower there. And that misplay is going to set me back a lot this game. So yeah, he goes into Zard. Now I actually can outspeed him here and get up the rocks because of how mechanics work in Oras. Basically, a Mega Evolution cannot change the turn order of a game. So despite my error, I do have the opportunity to set up with Volcarona here. Get my Citrus. I can set up again. And I do think I need one more to outspeed Drill. Now, this is a big turn. I have Flamethrower. I can KO this Zard here, but I also have Giga Drain. If I get the turn right and he goes Tyranitar as I click Giga Drain, then I'm in an excellent position. And at the very least, I can KO or get a ton of damage on Volcanion, because I think I'm HP Ground. So let's see, do I get the prediction? He goes into Tyranitar. Do I click Giga Drain? No, I click Fire Blast. So I missed the 50-50 there. And now things are looking very, very grim for me. I don't have any real win cons. I can throw out my Serperior, but it's not looking good. He has a whole Reuniclus and a Volcanion, so there's no realistic way I can win this game outside of insane levels of throwing from his part, which he's not going to do. And actually, he's sub-drill and just immediately gets it, so yeah. I'm going to have to go back out into Rotom. But ultimately, it's not really going to do anything because he just gets the spin off and he can go back into Reuniclus, which can easily take on a Rotom. So I get up T-Spikes there just because like my only possible win con is using Poison to wear down his team, but I literally can't beat the Reuniclus, and the game's been over since I missed that Volcarona predict. So yeah, he roosts there. It's just gonna be a Flamethrower. I'm gonna stall out his Sun turns, but he can easily just come in again, so it's not really anything significant. I do get a KO on Excadrill, but again, it doesn't really matter that much because he's just going to go out into Reuniclus and farm the rest of my team. Although maybe if I crit a Hydro Pump one of these two times and then crit the Charizard, like I guess there's a possibility, but It's very, very grim, and I don't crit any Hydro Bumps. So, and he just sets up Calm Minds. I think I go for another one trying to crit, but it misses. He just gets a Recover off. And Calm Mind again. And yeah, I go out into Serp, but he just Psyshocks me, and that's the game. Alright, Gen 8. He's got sort of a similar stall team to the one I previously used, except he has a Corviknight and not an Aegislash. So yeah, I lead with Clef. He's just going to immediately sub as I get up rocks, and sub Suicune presents a pretty big issue to my team. Like, he's going to sub up, Scald me, doesn't get the burn, and I think I needed a Dragon Dance to actually break his sub, so Scalds me again, and also does not get the burn, which is very good because my Clef doesn't have the Heal Bell. Let's see, does he get it? Yeah, he finally gets it, so this is looking very, very bad. Unless I can get like a bunch of Spidef drops with Dragapult or something. It's not looking good. I do a decent amount in with Ice Punch, but no Freeze. Once again, no crit or freeze. I roost here, just trying to get a bit more off. He slacks off, goes into Clefable, which is unaware. I try to freeze that unsuccessfully. Go to Ferrothorn, click Leech Seed on the incoming Toxapex. Get knocked off, which is bad because this is my only way of removing hazards. Managed to knock off his Hippo, which is a Dragapult answer, so that is some progress, and it looks like it's a very specially defensive Hippo as well. He slacks off. I get a knockoff on Pex, which doesn't really matter all that much. I Thunderwave his Clefable, and I start hazard stacking on him because I kind of realize if I have any shot of winning this game, it's going to be through hazards. And I do actually manage to knock off Tornadus. Go back to Clef, click Para again. T-Spikes go down, I click Stealth Rock. He gets paralyzed, then he goes for Wish. I go into Clef because I'm trying to threaten the Torn with T-Wave, and basically my objective at this point is to stall out all of his Heal Bells. So now I'm just clicking Moonblast, he's clicking Wish again. I click Thunder Wave just in case he switches out. I whiff a Thunder Wave onto his Hippowdon. But the good thing is here, Ferrothorn is actually looking really strong. And all of his team is weak to Leech Seed. So it isn't completely over for me or anything. Clef easily eats the Heat Wave and threatens back with the T-Wave. Managed to get up rocks there. He gets parried, and I'm pretty well chipping away at him with Moonblast. Now I get in Melmetal and get a double Iron Bash off, which is going to do a ton to this Hippowdon. And I managed to KO it the following turn. I'm kind of surprised he didn't go to Corviknight one of those turns, but getting the Hippowdon down is definitely very beneficial to me. And it turns out he's a Bulk Up Corv, which indicates that Tornadus is his only form of Defog. Now, that's even more beneficial that I get to knock that off, because he will have a much harder time doing any sort of Bulk Up setup sweep thing. I kind of see if he's trying to go for a substitute here with my Ferrothorn and then pull a double right back out in Dragapult. And there's that sub. I can immediately threaten him with a Flamethrower. Doesn't do too much, but he goes for a Brave Bird there and puts himself into Stealth Rock's range. Although my Dragapult is also in Stealth Rock's range. So definitely there's still a game. And my Ferrothorn is still in a very good position. I just need to try to prevent Wishes being passed to that Corviknight. Which, to even do that, he needs to first click Defog. And he's only on 5 Heal Bells. So I get up more spikes there, go back into Clef again. I think I just throw off another T-Wave. I get another T-Wave on the Torn, which means he's going to have to Heal Bell another one off. He pivots in Pex. I try to T-Wave that. I do have to be somewhat conscious about my T-Wave usage, but I still have a lot compared to his amount of Heal Bells. And I actually managed to gain a little bit of recovery on the Melmetal, switching it in to see if he would try to switch in his Torn to take the Wish. Clefable getting knocked off doesn't really do anything. Just gonna Thunder Wave that Pex, get in my Lando to try, because its best thing it can do is get in on Pex on a Para and threaten EQ. And I actually predict the Tornadus there with the knockoff, but having this Sticky Barb is definitely not ideal. So I could have tried to U-turn there, but I guess I wanted to make sure that I got switch initiative. And I double Iron Bash the Pex, but I don't get any Paraflinch, which is very unfortunate because Melmetal otherwise looked quite strong. Torn is coming in and sacrifices itself to deal with Melmetal, but now he's got the Menace Suicune in, and I have to figure out how I am actually going to break this. And it turns out the way I'm going to break this is with a burned Dragonite. So yeah, we're both setting up. I click Roost there. He has 3 Calm Minds. And I think, yes, I do 37 with an EQ at this point, and that's when I determine that it's time to click EQ instead of Dragon Dancing again. Because this is the point where he will not be able to go for sub, and I actually end up getting a really high roll and KOing the Suicune, which is very, very good for me. And it basically means that I have a shot to PP stall everything with Ferrothorn, Leech Seed, and Spikes. Because with 3 layers of Spikes and Stealth Rock, I am out-damaging his Regenerator. So I actually can be in a pretty strong position as long as I don't let my Ferrothorn get knocked off. Or burned. So I try to sneak Ferrothorn in there to get up the 3rd Spike, but he clicks Recover, so I go back to Clef. Yeah, just a bit of Pex stalling. I start to just waste my Stealth Rock PP rather than my Moonblast PP. We can skip ahead a little bit because it's quite repetitive. I try to actually fish for some Paras here, but once it's clear that he's going for Wishes, I do get my Ferrothorn in, and I'm able to get up that 3rd layer of Spikes. And this turn, I actually end up missing the Leech Seed. I'm kind of forced to risk the burn on Ferrothorn, and he does get it, as well as the knockoff, But at this point, Leech Seed and Regenerator are getting really hard for him to switch into. And as well, I have Gyro Ball. So his healing resources are quite limited at this point. And if he comes in on another Leech Seed, his Clef or Gyro Ball predict, then his Clef actually gets KO'd, and I'm able to just Leech Seed on the Pex, and it's basically over at this point because his Clef has no way of actually recovering unless I throw, and I have enough Leech Seeds to hit the Pex and just PP stall all its recovers with Clefable. So Comp knows that, and he just forfeits. So into the last game, our Gen 7 game. I thought I could be a bit clever and stall him just like he stalled me, so I bring this honestly kind of cheesy stall team with Protect Gliscor, which is inspired by Gen 9, and Subswarm Volcarona, which is just a really annoying mon. And initially, I think Subswarm Volcarona looks insane into this team. It can set up on the cart, Bulu, and Heatran if the sets are right, but let's see if that actually comes to happen. So I protect on Bulu, and that indicates the fact that he switched out does indicate that he is choiced in some way. But unfortunately, I switch in Sableye. I didn't really think he was going to go for a Hurricane and let Chansey in there. Honestly, in hindsight, that was a really risky play. I probably shouldn't have gone Sableye on a Tornadus. I just didn't think he would go straight for the Hurricane there. Given that that could happen, that I could Toxic his Tornadus like that, and I really wanted to get my Sableye's Mega up, so I ended up making that really risky play. Now he ends up defogging, and Rock's pressure is going to be really important in this game. And T-Spike pressure is quite good too for this Bulu. And I decided to scout for SD there, so I went for a Haze, but he switched in Heatran to my Pex, which made a lot of sense. Good play. And it turns out he was fast Heatran with Hidden Power Ice, so that is really tough. And not only that, he's fast Taunt Heatran with Hidden Power Ice. So I basically need him to miss a ton of Magma Storms here or something in order for me to actually get past this Pokemon. So that's going to be a significant obstacle for me in this game. I'm forced to switch out there. He goes into Lando. I'm thinking, okay, maybe I can get a Spidef boost on like the Kartana or something. I end up trading rocks with him, and he's SD Lando, which is very, very tough for me at this point in the game. So I'm like, okay, I still feel, I guess I could switch out Chansey, and maybe if he misses a Stone Edge or something. But he turns out to be Z Lando and just smokes my Skarmory. If I had caught that, maybe I could have sacked something and then tried to wall out the rest of his team. But I felt like I was just too backed into a corner at this point. But yeah, definitely feel like I could have played this one and the Oras game better. So I don't really have anything left for me. Like, my Volk is at 56. Everything is just gonna get chipped by Bulu, although he reveals himself to be Scarf and therefore do a little less damage. He has a Kartana in grassy terrain, and I am not a Thunder Wave Chansey. I am not getting past this, and my whole team just gets smoked. So definitely not my most well-played series, and that's what resulted in my first loss in Smogon Masters. Okay, so after that, I face Legitly for the next round, and I use the same stall team that I used versus Caesar. So let's see how it goes. He definitely has some stall breakers, but I also feel like my Suicune can put in a lot of work. Alright, Pex just gets knocked off by Weavile on lead after Torn, and I managed to pop that Heatran's balloon, which is really nice. But now Heatran is kind of a threat to me, so it's really good that he's not recovering with leftovers or anything, but usually Pex is the designated answer, and now that answer is Hippowdon, which, as we learned in the last game, can get pressured by Zapdos. I managed to knock off the Zapdos without getting static, which is very beneficial. I can go right into Hippowdon. Takes a ton from a Hurricane, unfortunately, so I'm kind of forced to click Slack off here. And I think the next turn I can click Rocks. Yeah, I do. As the Feeny comes out. And I predicted he would defog there and go for a Toxic, because I thought Zapdos might be offensive, probably doesn't have defog, and getting that Feeny Toxic is really, really good. Because now Pex can defeat it 1v1, as can, and Suicune can do it easily too. It's just really beneficial to have Feeny poisoned. I managed to get a recover off there on my Pex as he goes for Stealth Rocks. Hippowdon is coming in now, but it cannot take the Magma Storm from this Heatran. He does hit the 2 Magma Storms, and I'm forced to go into Suicune. Now he does give me the sub, but he also has Taunt. So I'm basically just going to have to spam Scald into this team. Zapdos Burn is nice. I Scald again, and he goes for a Volt Switch into Rillaboom, which, while it does threaten Suicune, it's actually pretty nice because I get a good amount of recovery from that Rillaboom, and I can just go into Tornadus and defog his rocks away. A U-turn into my Pex to try to do some pivoting to get more damage or more recovery on my Torn, as well as actually living this Nidoking's hit and managing to knock it off. He does get Sludge Wave on Torn, which is a very good play. And I went into Aegislash here because I really didn't think he would go for Flamethrower on that particular turn. I get a Shadow Ball off into Weavile, which is some nice chip. And I don't really mind if he SDs there because I am unaware Clef. And I also didn't think he'd SD in the face of an Aegislash. Alright, so he misses Magma Storm, which isn't a huge deal, and I get another sub with Suicune. And having a sub up on a taunted Suicune versus Feeny, while I can't Calm Mind, is still a pretty beneficial situation for me. He's going to go for a Moonblast there, but that doesn't even manage to break my sub, so I get to go for another Scald. He can Moonblast me, and then I can sub on the next turn. As the Rillaboom comes out, again, honestly fine by me. I'm getting a ton of recovery from this, and it will be very, very beneficial to me if I can manage to get this burn here. Unfortunately, I don't, and it looks like he's Leftovers Rillaboom, which is definitely a threat, like bulky Leftovers SD Rillaboom. Okay, he does go for an SD there as I go into my Pex. I actually get up a T-Spike there, confident that I can live, and that T-Spike is quite useful for Rillaboom. Alright, I get my Suicune in on the Heatran again as he goes for yet another Taunt, and I'm going to go for yet another Scald, which is going to put this thing into 2-hit KO range. He actually preserves Heatran and goes out into Feeny, which I'm alright with. Again, it gives me an opportunity to click Defog, but he makes a good play, doubles out into Weavile, makes another good play, and doubles out into Nidoking on my Peck. So just a lot of really good plays from him. However, he lost that Life Orb, so he is going to put in range of Tornadus, which is especially good that he didn't predict me with the Sludge Wave on that particular turn, because I'm going to get a Defog off, and I do not want this Zapdos sticking around, so I'm going to U-turn out of there. Thankfully, I don't get staticked. I'm going to go into Suicune and get even more recovery, this time without his Stealth Rocks being up. So I go into Torn there. He switches again into Weavile, which is nice, but I still have that Clefable. I go into my Toxapex to get some regen, and yeah, I go into my Suicune here, which is now nearly back at 100. I go into my Pex, and he switches in Heatran, which taunts Suicune. And this time I am just able to get off a Scald, and then I burn the Rillaboom. And that's absolutely huge for me. So I'm just going to go into Suicune again. Taunt is fine. Scalds are really impossible to switch into at this point on his team. And it's always just going to be a Tornadus. Him clicking Knockoff there is fine. It gives me more initiative with U-turn. I actually clicked Knockoff thinking that maybe he'd stay in there for some reason. And he manages to trap my Heatran with, or my Pex with his Heatran, but I'm honestly fine with that because it just gives me the opportunity to go into Suicune and click Sub. Or actually click Scald here, I guess because I predicted that he would go automatically into Rillaboom. He SDs, but Aegislash is going to be able to get off a good amount of damage on this if I choose to stay in, even though I don't. There's honestly no reason to stay in there, even though I could have gotten Chip on it. Heatran into Clefable, and I get the Moonblast to it KO. Nidoking comes in yet again, and I go Tornadus. There's the prediction. Well, not really a prediction. Heatwave was just a really good move to click either way. And I want to keep Torn for the Rillaboom and the Nidoking, so that's why I don't click Defog there. I'm honestly fine going into AG. And I can just substitute on this Tapu Fini. Yeah, just substitute again just to make sure when the Tapu Fini faints, I will have a sub. And this Rillaboom is just going to give me a lot of recovery. King's Shield there, just in case he chooses not to SD and to waste another turn of his Grassy Terrain, so his Grassy Glide can't KO my Torn after a bunch of SDs. Shadow Ball there does a ton of damage. And I don't think he can KO me at this point. So yeah, not even close, so I'm just going to go for another Shadow Ball, and Suicune will finish off the Nidoking. Alright, so a bit of a long game one, but let's get into the SM game where we've got Sand versus Sand. Cheetar lead into Zapdos. I'm just going to Volt Switch out. Go into my Drill on the Stone Edge, thinking maybe he'd click Rocks, but that's fine as well. I expect Celesteela is coming in. So that's why I went back out into Zap. It's also just good against a lot on his team. Drill coming in is also not really a huge deal because I have Heat Wave. But I assume he won't want to. Actually, no, I don't know if this variant has Heat Wave, but of course he would have to be scared of Heat Wave. This team might be like Toxic or something else. Torn doesn't get staticked. I just roost up there. I think he's going to switch again, but instead he just gets Stealth Rocks on me. I do get another Volt Switch, continuing to capitalize on the Heat Wave bluff. And yeah, I spin there because I don't think he's going to want to let his Pex get KO'd by Drill. Go into Pex here. He switches into T-Tar. This is fine with me because Scald is technically the progress maker against his team. And there I get the static. Try to Heat Wave there, catching his Drill, but he goes Pex. Good play. I'm just going to Volt. And we have a bit of a regen war going on with Pex and Torn his Pex. Get some recovery with Zap there, try to catch him again on a Heat Wave. So I think, yeah, one variant of this team has Volt Switch Roost Heat Wave Toxic, or Volt Switch Roost Hidden Power Ice and Toxic, and this one has Heat Wave over Toxic. Him burning T-Tar there is very unfortunate, because maybe that was a bit of a greedy play. I tried to sneak in the T-Tar and get rocks. I should have probably tried to sneak it in on the Torn or the Steela, but I ended up getting burned, which is definitely not great for me. However, I do get static on his T-Tar, which is kind of nice. I get Stealth Rocks up as the Keldeo comes in, and this Keldeo is a threat, especially if it's sub. If it's a sub Keldeo, could seriously annoy my team. I mean, Toxapex does kind of have it at a stalemate, but with all the other pressures on Pex this game and all the other things that can take away its recovery, a sub Keldeo is certainly not something that I'd like to see. Especially if he gets rocks up, because then he can scald my Zapdos and prevent my Volt Switch into Kartana, and it's not unmanageable, but it's just a threat. I try to get a Scald on his Drill as he spins, but he makes the right play and clicks EQ. I think this time I go into Zapdos on the spin, but I don't get the static. I tried to Heat Wave there in case he... I think that was for, like, if he clicked, like, SD, thinking I would Volt again. But it turns out that I ended up just getting KO'd by this Tyranitar as I try to Roost for that somewhat greedy play. And I try to make another greedy play with versus the Tyranitar, and it doesn't really pay off. And at this point, it's extremely hard for me. Any type of winning is going to be really difficult. I only have one Mon that can do any form of damage, and he's basically just going to be able to outlast me. So definitely a few difficult situations in which I made plays that didn't exactly work out. Yeah, and I won't go over all of these final turns. Since I do have paralysis on Torn, there's technically a chance for me to Leaf Blade him with Kartana if he lets it get knocked off. And because, yeah, he ended up knocking off my Kartana as I switched it into a Tornadus because I knew I needed to knock it off to win. And I'm basically just trying to get crits on this Toxapex. It's not really happening, though. Leaf Blade on Kartana. I think I might have gone... No, I went into Pex. I think one of these times I might have just gone for a knockoff as he tries to Leech Seed on like some crazy aggressive predict. Because if I get that play, I can technically do it with Kartana, thanks to it being knocked off by the Torn. I get an opportunity to potentially Scald the Celesteela if he gets out of there, which is good. Bit of a Pex War. I try to Leech Seed him. He absorbs T-Spikes. There's that sub Keldeo. And which I do eventually manage to scare out and get the knockoff on the Kartana, predicting that to come in. So maybe if he misses Leech Seeds, there's something I can do. And all of a sudden, this isn't looking too bad for me. Like, if I can get a boost and maybe crit the Pex or something, I can actually go on like a generational run with Kartana. Alas, I do crit the Keldeo, or I do KO the Keldeo, but this Toxapex is going to put me into Excadrill range. So, a valiant attempt by Kartana at the end, especially on the turn. I got it knocked by Tornadus, but it didn't really amount to a sweep, unfortunately. So, we're going back to Oras, where I brought a semi-stall with a Suicune once again. So I'm immediately going to try to burn something with the Cofagrigus. T-Spike there. Because T-Spike plus Burn is looking really good into his team, and I believe this Cofagrigus is ref, so I'm not worried about getting statused. And I'm basically just spamming Will-O-Wisp, trying to burn stuff. Get my Toxicorb active with Gliscor there. And I SD, which his team sort of has an issue switching into. Like, he doesn't really love switching into the combination of EQ and Facade. He has a Venu, which can eat it pretty well, but it's not great for it. And I'm EQ knockoff, which is very helpful for knocking off that Zapdos. I try to Roost to see how fast he is. It turns out he is fast enough to outspeed my Gliscor and Hidden Power Ice. So I go out into my Defog Zapdos. And I just click Roost to keep healthy. And the next turn I'm going to click Defog. Yeah, Chansey comes in, but it's not really a big deal. I'm kind of just trying to pressure stall his Stealth Rocks at this point. Oh yeah, also, if you didn't know, Pressure Zapdos, or only Pressure Zapdos, can have Defog in Gen 6. You can't have a static Pressure Zapdos. So he goes into his own. A Heat Wave there, trying to burn it, because I'm pretty sure this Chansey doesn't have Heal Bell. Stall a few more turns, get Gliscor back in, get Zapdos back in, go for another Heat Wave, and this time I get an Aggron, which is my Stealth Rocker. Now, since his team is getting pressured by Stealth Rocks, I can burn stuff a little bit more and pressure with Cofagrigus and its Toxic Spikes, because at least when it comes in, the Venusaur will be taking chip. Get a little bit greedy there. I thought he'd go into the Venusaur instead of going for the Shadow Ball. Which, looking back, I mean, a Hex or a Shadow Ball from that Cofagrigus did seem kind of likely, but a lot of them also run, like, Knockoff or Nightshade now, so I still think it was a reasonable play. He ends up knocking off my Zapdos, but this Venusaur set can't really harm Aggron, so I can basically just get Stealth Rocks whenever this Venusaur comes in. I switch Zapdos into Pressure Stall his rocks, click Defog again, go back into Aggron, he goes back into Chansey, it happens again, although he ends up going back into Cofagrigus, and I get Suicune in on that. I think Clefable is Heal Bell on this team, so it wasn't a big deal if I got burned, although I would prefer not to get knocked, and I managed to get the first turn burn on the Venu, which is huge. He pivots in Keldeo at a really good time, however, and it tries to sub up, but I am not allowing that to happen for a second game in a row, and I just spam EQ on it. He scalds me, doesn't get the burn, which is huge, and I'm basically just going to stay in with Aggron and trade down with this Keldeo. Now that his Keldeo is very, very low, that's still quite good for me. As I'm able to get up Stealth Rocks there. And I believe this is a Rest Aggron as well. So I'm just going to end up defogging there. Yeah, I end up stalling a few more turns. He gets in his Keldeo on a nice turn because that allows him to be in sub-range with one more Leftovers recovery. Yeah, a bit more Zapdos versus Zapdos. Cofagrigus gets Toxic Spikes. I think that was a Rest Cofagrigus too, but his Venusaur actually did manage to KO me. But at this point in the game, my Rest Suicune is just looking so good. Like, his Keldeo is low enough and he didn't get it back in time to the point where Rest Talk is just going to basically win. Yeah. He keeps me at full HP, so I can't remove the para for a while, but I just end up resting back up again. Scalding to keep this Chansey low and get a burn. Now, it is possible that I could technically get into a losing situation from this Chansey, because my Scalds are limited, so I do need my burns to land. But still, I'm eventually going to get a burn, and something's going to have to come into the Suicune to take a lot of damage. Goes into Cofagrigus, who goes for a Pain Split, not really a problem, and it just drops to Scald. Chansey comes back. Goes to Keldeo, and that was a really good play, because it actually forces me to Sleep Talk Scald, which was kind of lucky, but when I woke up the next turn, I would basically have to go for 2 Scalds, and I think I would have still been okay. And I get a nice crit there to finish off the Chansey, and Zapdos isn't going to be able to do anything. So he definitely could have won if a few things went his way with that Suicune endgame. But overall, I'd say it was a pretty solidly played series on both parts. Okay, so for the next round of Smogon Masters, I'm facing Star Master, who's one of the most well-known tournament players across multiple different generations, and I actually uploaded the live commentary of this match to my YouTube channel. It's called This Is Why Blazenix Was Banned, and you'll see why later. But yeah, for now, let's just get into the ORAS series. So, I lead off with Lopunny, he leads off with Heatran. I decide to go for an HJK, or no, a return, thinking he'd switch in Mew, and I just get blasted by a Specs Overheat. So definitely I feel like I thought a little bit too far ahead with that particular play. I go for a Heat Wave, aiming for the Gliscor or the Mew, or the Drill, I guess, as well. But he goes into a non-toxic heal Gliscor, which is interesting. Definitely a lot of weird sets on this team. He gets the Focus Blast off, and I get up Rocks. Rocks are very beneficial to me. And I go into my Scarf Healing Wish Latias. And I actually immediately go for the Healing Wish to get my Lopunny back, because Lopunny is a really big threat, and I thought maybe he'd switch into something like the Drill, or maybe staying in with Heatran is fine as well. But then again, it turns out fine because he's Scarf Drill and he gets rid of the Rocks. Mew comes in, that Psyshock feels offensive, so I decide to go into Ferrothorn and Leech Seed that thing immediately. Oh, I Leech Seed it later. I get up the Spike now. Okay, that was a good play. And now I go into my Heatran on the Serperior, and my Serperior checks are really running thin at this point. And I see he's Life Orb, and I save the Heatran sack, although I don't really think it matters because Heatran was going to faint to basically anything at that point. It's good for the Charizard possibility of Focus Miss, I guess. But basically, his Heatran is going to have the opportunity to rip through me now. I thought he might go for an Earth Power there, predicting my own Heatran, but since he didn't, I'm going to have the opportunity to get up my own Stealth Rocks. But the bad thing is, he is going to have the chance to sub on me. Except, I guess he thought I was Magma Storm or Roar, so he didn't end up taking it. That would have been very threatening to me if he did take it, though. And now I actually get the Frustration prediction on this Mew. And I definitely have a shot here. It's a 50-50, but he gets it. I needed that Overheat drop so that my Lopunny would live, and I thought he might go for it there, but he got me. He went into the Zard, and he's going to be able to finish the game. And yeah, that's game one. So getting into the Star Master game 2, he's got a pretty unique Gen 7 team, and I'm using a Fairy Spam that I like. So I lead with Lele, he leads Kelvio, and I go for Psyshock because I know it's kind of obvious Celesteal is one of the most consistent Lele answers. And I'm Protean Spikes Gren, and he is Protean T-Spikes Gren. Now, he actually turned out to be, I believe, a Focus Sash, Spikes, Taunt, Ice Beam lead that I actually ended up using in future tournament games because I thought that was a really neat Greninja set. So yeah, he's going to go for another Spike, but I go for an Aura Sphere and take down that Greninja. Lando comes in trying to go for Rocks. This is pretty tough for me because my team does not have any removal. I guess he didn't want to get Ice Beam there, so he went for the safe EQ. Actually, is this removal Lando? No, it's not. It's not removal Lando. And I throw in my own Greninja to this Kelvio. and get a very good gun shot off as he goes for the surf, as he went for the surf. And he tried to make a sub, but he couldn't. Again, a pretty beneficial turn for me. I think here I just get to, I think I actually predict the Lando coming in, and no, I don't go for the Leaf Blade. I just go for the knockoff to take out the helmet. That's probably the more optimal play anyway. He gets double into Reuniclus. I U-turn, get some chip on that, and go into my Lele, because Reuniclus is a serious threat to my team, especially when Mawile can't revenge KO with him still having an Intimidate Lando, a Celesteela, and a Zam. Kartana coming back in. Sacks Keldeo. I go for a Smart Strike now. I think this was a mistake. I must have not been looking at the calc or something. I thought Smart Strike was a pretty sure KO on Zam. And I do think he had some defense, but it turns out that I just lost my Kartana there. He's taunt Zam, so I can't outplay. I'll need to actually outplay him with Sucker if I want to win this series, but thankfully I do. On the third turn, I get the knockoff. He goes Lando, and at this point I'm also thinking it's an autotomized Celesteela. So I got a U-turn there. I don't have anything else to hit this Celeste. Ends up going for a Flamethrower. So it's basically all down to Mawile now. And if Mawile can take this Flamethrower. He goes into Lando. Thankfully, I previously knocked off the helmet. And let's see, can Mawile KO a Celesteela? Yes. Okay. So I managed to clinch that Gen 7 game with the help of Mawile. And now here is the Blaziken is broken game for Gen 8. And look at his team. Blaziken sets up an SD. It's a major, major threat. Now that was a fairly lucky Hydro Pump miss. It allows me to poison the Rotom and basically get Rocks Up guaranteed. Able to just protect there, get more poison damage. Go into Slowbro, which is a pretty safe switch. Volt Switch doesn't bother me too much. I just go out into Lando because it's kind of like an all-purpose answer to Tyranitar, and the Stone Edge miss there is very nice for me. And the Ferrothorn comes in on my U-turn, and it's time to bring out the Blaze. So he switches into Buzzwole, ISD. Also have a Protect on this set, and that is pretty much game. Like, he has nothing remaining on his team that can take on a Blaziken. And the T-Tart even got burned there. Not that that matters too much. Flare blitzing so I don't lower my defenses. In hindsight, protecting there was probably better. Just in case he was cussed at Tyranitar, even though he was clearly banned. Buzzwole into Drill. And CC just takes that out. Yeah, really tough matchup for him. Alright. Let's go into the next match, which is versus Don Salvatore. And this guy is actually the finalist, the second placer of the original Smogon Masters tournament, the very first edition. And he's actually using a not a very old, but definitely a couple years old Pinkacross RMT. which I actually enjoyed using a lot back in the day, but I was able to find the pace and pull it up as I was playing. So in this match, I'm basically prioritizing hazard stacking and combined with knocking off items using Torn. And poisoning stuff with Tyranitar. Goes into Lando. This is already a solid start for me because this Lando is the only defogger on the team. And knocking it off is going to be really helpful for my hazard stack plan. It's especially nice that he missed that Toxic there. Defog comes out, that's okay. I'm just going to go for a Spike. It's also worth noting that this team does have a Wish Umbreon that's very good at getting Lando healthy again, which is why I'm putting so much pressure on it with Hazards and with Nidoking. Like, I was pretty sure he was going to protect there. Now I can even threaten a knock. Yep, there it is, and that's going to stop this Umbreon from healing up this Lando all the time. I went for a body press there. Yeah, going for a body press just to keep the Umbreon low, waste more of its wishes, Spike on the protect, just putting a lot of pressure on. Yeah, Lando defogs there, but it's okay. He defogged his own rocks too. Gonna set up another Spike. Go into T-Tar again. Thankfully, I don't get burned, but I am really just trying to maximize the amount of pressure I get from those hazards. I thought he might try to poison me there. That's why I went for the EQ. Now Kartana comes in, but thankfully I have a pretty good answer to that in Tornadus. And that, of course, does reveal, or confirm rather, the CB Kartana. Yeah, just U-turn there because he's probably not staying in. Go to Nidoking and continue to pressure those wishes out of this Umbreon. Pretty sure he's going to protect there. He kind of has to, so I can go to Tornadus again. Go to T-Tar just to get more sand chip on him. I think... yeah, I went to Nidoking here just to pressure the Lando in case it came in. Yeah, I go for an Earth Power there. Just so I don't, like, keep wasting all my Sludge Waves. Go for an Ice Beam there, because I'm pretty certain he's going to protect, and it's fine. And yeah, basically this Umbreon is just taking a ton of damage, and I'm going to switch in T-Tar to gain even more HP and get the sand back up. Nidoking comes out yet again, and this time he can go for Foul Play, so I go into Ferrothorn. And without leftovers, this Umbreon is really struggling. I think I went for an Ice Beam there just to, like, threaten him to use another Wish and maybe burn some PP. He teleports into Heatran. Look, getting a little bit of chip on that. Gets up his rocks again as I take the Future Sight with my T-Tar. And I get a Poison on Slowbro yet again, which is going to even further pressure this Umbreon to Heal Bell. Does get a good switch out into Kartana there. but goes for a Leaf Blade into my Ferrothorn, perhaps expecting me to stay in. And I'm just able to get even more chip and just continue stacking up hazards. I didn't necessarily expect to teleport there, but mostly I just wanted to get some regen with my Torn, and if you went Coco, it's alright as well. And yeah, now this Slowbro is taking a ton of chip. I thought he might teleport there, which is why I went for a Scald. The only bad outcome there would be if he Scalded and I got burned. So it was a risk I was willing to take, and I managed to KO the Heatran, which is his only source of rocks. And there I switch in just my Rocky Helmet Slowbro because if it takes Rocky Helmet and then knock off, it actually doesn't KO a Pokemon on my team or knock off my Ferrothorn's item. So yeah, he goes into Lando now, because I'm able to just click Leech Seed. And I click Knockoff there because if I survive that turn, he can no longer wish into this Pokemon. He tries to KO my Ferrothorn there, but I don't let him. And his really only remaining Wincon is this Tapu Koko, but there is no way he's breaking past my Nidoking and my Drill. It's simply not an option. Goes into Umbreon here, which is fine. I'm not really worried about it. Because I'm just going to basically keep clicking Sludge Wave until something dies. Tries to Wish Up. I figure I won't waste more PP and I'll get Ferrothorn healed up a bit. Just to give me yet another Coco answer. Slowbro comes out. And I think at this point I can just go to my Slowbro, yeah. Slack off. Nothing can realistically threaten me now. I can just easily teleport into Tyranitar to take that Future Sight, and he realizes that. So, that's the Gen 8 game. Now we have the Gen 7 game, which I'm facing a team that's almost similar to the one Comp brought versus me, but now I'm bringing one of my favorite HOs. So Mew into T-Tar lead. Unfortunately, I miss a Thunder Wave, but he also misses a Stone Edge. So I suppose it sort of works out. I do not expect this Tyranitar to be Stealth Rocks. I'm assuming it's on the Heatran. And as such, he does just continue to go straight for the Stone Edge. And now my Como looks incredibly strong into him. And yeah, you're just gonna watch what happens now. Yeah. So Como just 6-0'd. Alright, on to the next series, which is me versus 3D. I once again brought a stall team, so I'm not going to give much of an intro, I'm just going to get into it. And he's actually bringing the same 6 that Luthier brought. And yeah, this Weavile is going to be a problem because it's just going to be clicking knockoff on everything, including my unaware Clefable, which the sand chip set by my own Hippowdon isn't helping that very much. He's future sighting, which means I have to take a defensive action. Ends up hitting the Hippowdon and critting it, which is pretty big. And he does feel like he can stay in and go for the Scald because he is a defensive Slowking, and already this is not starting off very well for me at all. At the very least, though, I can slack off and then reset rocks. He always has this Corviknight to defog, but at least I get a Wish passed into Hippowdon from Clefable. I try to poison him, see if he's going to Garchomp or Shifu or something on my rocks, or even Weavile. But he's not making any of those plays. Yeah, so Stealth Rocks, Torn, Heat Wave Miss, Slowking causing trouble again. I get the chance to burn him here, but it doesn't work out. And now kind of my only hope is setting up with Suicune, which is not too bad of an option. If I get a burn on something, that could be really big. However, this Weavile is going to break my sub and then do a bit of chip damage, and that doesn't get burned either. So I'm always forced to go Clefable, which gives his Slowking an opening to just click Future Sight. Which I can take with my Aegislash. It's kind of helpful that his Urshifu is Scarf. Get in my Hippo, go for more rocks, try to go into Torn, get my Suicune healthy again with Rest, spam Slack off a little bit, lose my Torn, still trying to do it with Suicune, but he gets the poison instantly, which sucks. Especially since my Healing Wish, or my Heal Belmont is fainted. So yeah, overall this is just going, due to not getting the burn and getting poisoned the first time, this is just going to be really tough for me to come back from. And Weavile's just basically going to end up knocking off everything. Yeah. Alright, time for Gen 7. As I've got a Superior Sand. Uses Knockoff into T-Tar, and I get a Pursuit off on that Weavile, which is really nice chip because Weavile is quite a threatening mon to me. Now, I think he's going to SD there, or click Knockoff or something, and I get that Kartana with a Fire Punch, which is really, really good. He pursues me, does an absolute ton to my Lando. I managed to bring it back in on the Heatran and get Stealth Rocks up, which is quite valuable for me. He uses Stone Edge on me, which implies Choice Scarf, and I'm able to pursue it once again with my T-Tar. His Weavile comes out, it's taking a lot of chip. I thought he might switch out there into something like Feeny, which is why I went Celesteela, but it also guarantees that Weavile's going to be KO'd. I protect on the Lando just to see what he's going to do. Goes for a Defog, and what I'm going to do is just prevent this Landorus from escaping and get the KO on it with Pursuit once again. So definitely a lot of trapping in this game. Venusaur with Leaf Seed is annoying, but my Pex looks pretty strong. I get the T-Tar Mega out versus the Heatran. Go for the Crunch. He goes for Earth Power, which doesn't do too much and also doesn't get a special defense drop. He goes to Mega Venu. Remember, the Synthesis is only going to heal him like 25% if he goes for it. So I go for a Stone Edge, and he just decides to quit there because he knows that this game is pretty much done for. Because I have an Excadrill in the back, I have T-Tar, I have Pex, and he just didn't want to play it out, which is understandable. Alright, going to Oras. Slowbro lead, I go immediately with Bisharp, go for the knockoff, get a very nice crit, and manage to KO with a Sucker Punch. So already a tremendous start for me. I knock off the Heatran, and I'm just going to stay in and knock off again, getting another crit. He does manage to burn me, unfortunately. But I get another crit on the Slowbro. And yeah, that Heatran being low is basically just really, really excellent for my Serperior. However, Slowbro does reveal the Ice Beam there. And this is where I feel I messed up a little. I go for a Leaf Storm. And here I got a bit greedy and went for another sub, thinking he would try to sack the Heatran and go into something. And here I should have gone for another sub if I wanted to predict that, but I went for a Leaf Storm. Honestly, I should have just Leaf Stormed again, because now I can be put in range of Clefable. That was a serious misplay, and just not a very well thought through plan. Because now I basically have to burn this Ferrothorn and hope I can outspeed or KO the Gliscor with my Metagross. Now I do have Thunder Punch on this Metagross, so getting past the Slowbro isn't the biggest deal. Especially him missing 2 Leech Seeds there is very beneficial to me, but wait, I get paralyzed and none of my Scalds have burned. So he's actually going to be able to Hazard stack up on me. Still no burn. I really need a burn so I can get a power-up punch on this Ferrothorn and attempt to sweep his Gliscor. But sadly, that's not really going to happen. And I just get parried, and I never succeed in getting the burn. Not even this time when he goes back to Pharaoh. Yeah, tons of Scalds and no burns. Unfortunate. I did get lucky with the Leaf Seed misses, but it's also kind of a shame that I didn't get any burns or anything. Even a burn on the Slowbro would have been excellent as well. Because now I have to, like, power a punch twice. And he burns me. So, definitely felt like some luck on both sides, but I definitely made a mistake not Leaf Storming that Slowbro. And for that, I'm going to take my second loss in the Masters main stage. And now I have to win one more series to get to the 8-2 score that I need. So yeah, he poisons me, and yeah, I'm not going to be able to do it. Alright, so this is the final round of the Masters main phase. This best of 3 is win and in and lose, and I don't make top 32 playoffs. And I'm against Brandon Lee, who is a really strong SM player, and another person from my general friend group that I'm really glad I got the chance to play. And, of course, I'm bringing Rain, and it looks like he knew I was bringing Rain, because he has like a Como, which can like toxic my Swampert. He has a Pex and a Ferrothorn and a Latias. He's practically got almost everything that annoys Rain, so let's see how this goes. So he leads Torn as I lead Pelly. Go into my own Tornadus as he activates my eject button, and I go into my Ferrothorn so I can threaten Thunder Wave, I believe. Yeah, I got the Thunder Wave on that Como O. Gonna click Stealth Rocks there, which are important for wearing down that Lati. And I actually get a Paralysis on Hex as well, which is very, very good for Manaphy, which I'm going to go into now. So I actually Surf here thinking he might go into Ferrothorn. That's just to get a little bit of chip off, because after a Tail Glow, my Waterium Z needs a little bit of chip to KO, and he's going to set hazards as I just go for the Defog here. He misses a Hurricane onto Ferrothorn, which is very helpful, as I'm not going to go for another Thunder Wave. I'm going to go for the Rocks because he has that Como, which is just a great switch in. And here I'm going to just go for the U-turn and to get out the Greninja to set spikes, which are going to be very useful for wearing down those water resists on his team. And once again, I can go into Manaphy. And this time with with more hazards, a bit of chip on the Ferrothorn, and a few more rain turns. But I am actually not going to go just for the Tail Glow. I'm going to go for the rest first to remove that 24% of damage that had been done onto me. And that is a pretty nice para. I can assume he clicked Haze there, but this is why it's so beneficial to paralyze Toxapex if you're using Rain. And I just went for another Psychic there, which is going to get a tiny bit of chip on the Ferrothorn. Now I go into my Pelipper because this thing actually can threaten Knockoff. And usually that's pretty unexpected. I didn't think he would go for it there, but he puts me in a pretty tough position by going into that Tornadus. And not only that, he doesn't even put me into range of my Berry. But he does. I thought he might U-turn, or maybe just click defog, which is how I was able to get that para off on him. And even if he went for the Hurricane, it wouldn't be the world's worst thing to lose my Ferrothorn there. I think I go for another Spike here. Yeah, just gonna keep putting on that pressure so that my Manaphy can KO that Ferrothorn with a +3 Waterium Z. Gonna taunt that Tornadus so he can't defog, although he just ends up Supersonic Sky Striking my Tornadus. Now I'm like, please, please, please don't get Confusion. Oh, that is absolutely horrible. Hits that. And I go for the Tail Glow here. Now I can't leave my Lati, or my Manaphy in on that Latias, as I threaten the Thunder Wave with Ferrothorn. Getting a little bit of health back with Leech Seed, thinking he might defog, but it turns out he just superpowers. And this is looking a little bit rough for me on the surface, but from this position, my Swampert actually looks really strong. So I'm just going to Power Up Punch again. He does hit me with the Hurricane there through the para. But Swampert actually has a good chance to KO defensive Ferrothorn here. KO with Ice Punch. And already you can see the power of an attack boosted Swampert, as Mons just continue to drop on his team. This is why I love Rain in Gen 7. It's just so hard to account for so many playstyles, and even at 93, I'm able to KO that Ferrothorn. Tries to go for an Ice Beam Freeze, but thankfully does not get it, and I'm going to be able to clean up the game with Swampert. So yeah, very cool how that all turned around quickly, just through Power Up Punch Swampert. Definitely one of my favorite mons in Gen 7. Alright, now we've got Oras, in which I'm using a unique hyper offense team with a, I believe it's a Custat Berry Dual Hazard Skarmory. So very intelligently, he goes for Hydro Pump as to not put me into Custap range, because he must know the team. And then I begin to suspect, well, could he be a Scarf Rotom? But no, he's not. He just kind of overpredicted. I go for a Nightshade just because it's damage, and I go for a Taunt because I don't want this Clefable to start Thunder Waving or setting up or anything else. I get a ton of damage onto that Rotom with Nightshade, and now I think I'm just going to click Recover. However, now his Clefable has become a bit more threatening, although I do have this Digger's Bee that is just waiting to get a massive hit off on this. Now he should be able to tell that's banned, so I'm expecting a switch into either Gengar or Pharaoh. So he does go Pharaoh. HJK does a lot to that Hippowdon. Not quite into a KO range, but I find the opportunity to get up another layer of spikes as he gets up Stealth Rocks. Did I Whirlwind here? No, I set up, I'm trying to get my 3 layers, of course. So I do manage to get my 3 layers of spikes, which is really good because this team does not have Defog. And this turn, I click Whirlwind. And I actually save the Skarm for the Custap there because that could be very useful in some situations. I thought he might try to Pain Split there rather than keep clicking Volt Switch, but also it's fine because he can no longer just come in on Stealth Rocks anymore, as he is going to get KO'd as I SD with my Bisharp. Latias comes in, I'm going to click Knockoff, and I get paralyzed. Very, very unfortunate. I feel like I had a very strong position if I got that attack off. Go into Diggersby here. And I go for the return, which perhaps it's kind of a prediction, but I got it wrong. And even worse, he's Substitute Gengar, which is just going to totally mess me up. And even more, I kind of need to get out of there and sacrifice something so that he doesn't continuously gain HP with this Gengar. Go for my Thunderbolt, he goes for another sub. No Cursed Body in this gen. And I make another over prediction and to go for a Nasty Plot, thinking he would go into his Hippowdon. Unfortunately, it doesn't really work out. But you can kind of see here, if I had gotten Parrot on that turn, even with my little over prediction, my Lopunny would have just, my Bisharp with the Healing Wish Lopunny would have had a really, really strong chance just to clean up. I could have gone for the Iron Head there, but it wasn't a KO. I thought he might stay in, and I wanted to be able to take the Will-O-Wisp from this Gengar, which I figured was his last move. I go for the Iron Head there, and unfortunately, he's going to get the Flamethrower off. I almost feel like I deserve the flinch there, but that's Pokemon, and that's what happens sometimes. So, in a very narrow game, essentially decided by the para, he is going to take me to a Game 3 to decide which one of us is going to qualify for Smogon Masters playoffs. Alright, so in this Gen 8 game, I lead with Melmetal, as I thought he might go into Lando there, but he goes with Pharaoh. I get up Stealth Rocks with my Garchomp as he sets up hazards. I am an SD Garchomp, so I can actually threaten his Lando, and this is pretty interesting, because I don't want to EQ on the turn that he goes Lando. He does go Lando there, but I click EQ and he gets me on that prediction. He also goes Clefable there, gets me on the prediction again, and he really has to predict around this Garchomp, because if it gets multiple kills, it could be extremely dangerous for him. But now he's gotten another prediction against me, but I managed to get the Scale Shot. Can I KO this Garchomp? No. I only get 4 turns, but he goes for the U-turn and KOs himself with Rough Skin and puts himself in a much rougher spot that results in him having to take a lot of damage on Clefable. And eventually results in me getting a free Garchomp sack. This is a Life Orb Blaziken, so it's going to KO itself upon KOing this Clefable, but that's still quite a bit of progress made by me. Heatran comes out, and now my objective is to basically just pressure my team, or pressure his team with my Urshifu. He goes into Dragapult, This is a CB Urshifu. So that has significantly chipped this Dragapult to the point where it will certainly feint to another Surging Strike. He goes for Specs Shadow Ball. I go into my Zapdos again. Volt Switch is free here. And I can go into my Melmetal. He goes for Psychic there. I go for EQ and KO that. Dragapult comes in. I can once again go for Protect. Actually, it's my first time going for Protect, but I can just get free recovery. And this time, I am just free to click Volt Switch again, and now come some predictions with Urshifu. And I get the CC off onto his Ferrothorn. Because if he goes Dragapult, he gets a KO, but if I KO his Dragapult with a Surging Strike, I can just sweep his team with a Choice Band Close Combat. But now I can sacrifice the Lele, KO the Dragapult with Volt Switch, and qualify for Masters Playoffs just by using this Urshifu to finish the game with Surging Strikes. Alright, and with that concludes the main phase of Smogon Masters. So, without further ado, let's move to playoffs. So for playoffs round 1, I'm facing Genius X, who's a very good SM player, and perhaps I was a bit lax with prep because I brought a team that I've been using a lot. It looked good into his scout. He uses a lot of unconventional offenses, so I thought Ditto would be good. But and this was like the only team I had with Ditto that I felt comfortable with, but you'll see what happens when I use this fairly known structure. So yeah, lead is automatically a little bit rough. At least I get my Gliscor activated on turn 2. Although he goes for a Calm Mind, I'm like, okay, I have Leech Seed, and he's Substitute. He's Substitute Calm Mind Magearna. Yeah. My team cannot do this. This is a complete counter to my team. Yeah, I mean, Celesteela can break 1, but it's going to give Magearna a boost, and nothing can really revenge KO it. I try to get a bit of chip with Ditto, but he can pretty easily just Calm Mind up or just attack me as well. That crit is actually really unfortunate because otherwise I could have been able to revenge KO with Gliscor, but that doesn't happen. Something in hindsight I could have also considered that might have been better is actually roaring him out with my Laddie. I don't think I could have lived an Ice Beam at that HP, but yeah. Thanks to this Magearna set's excellent matchup against my team, and it critting my Ditto, it's going to be able to sweep. So that's my first Gen 7 game of playoffs, so let's go on to Gen 6. And I'm bringing something I rarely bring, and will probably not bring again, which is Shuckle Web's Hyper Offense. And he has 4 flying Pokemon, so Webs are... This wasn't exactly the Webs matchup I was looking for. So there I thought he might pivot or use another move to prevent me from keeping the Jellicent sack, but I should have just made a more straightforward play and go to Jellicent, because having that sack later would have been really good. Latias also does a ton of damage to my Bisharp, and already this is looking like a pretty rough game. Now, it doesn't really help that I SD'd there. I feel like maybe I should have knocked off this Keldeo, or at least tried to chip it into range that maybe if my Bisharp got an SD later, but none of that happens. And Yeah, I have to go into Manaphy here. I lost 2 Pokemon basically immediately. And at least I can Energy Ball the Keldeo, but yeah, it's looking very rough. My only hope is basically my Thundurus and my Heracross. If my Thundurus was Agility, that would be really helpful, but I do not believe it was Agility in this game. Tried to stall that Latias a little bit, but it didn't work out. He crits me, which is nasty. I thought I might maybe catch him on the SD or something, but no. But he is adamant, which means I'm able to KO him with Pinsir. And I get what I needed to stay in this game, which is a Draco miss. Extremely lucky. And he is a Scarflando forced to go for Stone Edge. And now Heracross comes out. I am Substitute. So when I see him going into Ferrothorn, I'm like, okay, maybe I have a chance to do this. As he subs on my Leech Seed, I'm like, alright, this is not bad, because I'm able to KO, but that Zapdos has Roost and Heat Wave, as well as a Volt Switch, which is going to break my sub and allow him to get Intimidate onto me. But he misses another Stone Edge, which just keeps me out of Heat Wave range. So I'm already getting incredibly lucky. And just check out this insane endgame. Okay, so I predict him to Roost there. Go for the Pin Missile. Basically, he's at the same exact HP as he started. I Pin Missile again. I get a critical hit. I get 2 critical hits in a row. And now he's a lot lower than he was. And now I basically just have to keep Pin Missiling and hope that I get lucky. I Pin Missile again. Zapdos is still around. I'm barely doing damage to him, barely doing any net damage. And basically he's just going to keep spamming Roost until he gets the HP that he needs. But I get a crit and KO. Definitely a lucky game by me, and a really crazy Heracross endgame. So let's go to game 3, which is the Gen 8 game, and I'm using an SD Scale Shot Fire Fang Garchomp, which is one of my favorite sets and looks quite good here. So let's see how this turns out. I really like Taunt Torn, something you have probably seen. I'm able to immediately taunt that Hippo and get my Garchomp in on his Toxapex to basically immediately threaten an SD. And his defensive core basically immediately falls apart if I ever flinch one of these Fire Fangs. Future Sight also looks really strong into him, so that's why I'm going for that. Like, what is his switch into Future Sight plus Heatran? It's Hippowdon, but that one is going to take a ton. I thought he might try to paralyze me with Clef there, which is why I went for the taunt. I taunt the Pex yet again. He goes for a Scald. I get my eject button, and back out into Garchomp I go. His Skarmory is once again healthy, and I'm going to go for another Fire Fang attempt to flinch. And now this time Weavile comes out. So I guess I thought he would switch out to Toxapex there and wanted to get off Rocks, but to my surprise he actually stayed in with Skarm. I'm surprised he would let it take a knock, given its critical role against my Garchomp, and the Helmet Chip actually being important for my Garchomp not just steamrolling his team without any punishment. And there I get the knockoff, which is really, really good for me. Not only that, Future Sight comes down, which means I'm going to be able to get a little bit of chip with Leech Seed, and this is essentially why I don't like Skarmory or Corviknight. They just end up taking so much chip damage. So Fable comes out. I'm going to go for another Future Sight. He goes for a Calm Mind, as Heatran is really my answer to this situation. And this time I'm going to Magnet Storm, as he clicks Knockoff on me. I could have expected that Moonblast to come off, but I really wanted to go for the taunt just to confirm that this thing would stay low. It's also worth noting that I'm getting quite lucky hitting these Magma Storms here. And I hit the final one. I don't go for a taunt because I think he will go for a Moonblast to try to lower my special attack. So he goes into Keldeo, I immediately go into Tornadus and get a Defog off, which is going to make things a lot easier for my Garchomp. Go for the taunt because I can't have any T-Spikes going up. Now I go into Weavile because Triple Axle and Knockoff are pretty threatening into his team. So I thought he was going to go to Pex there. That's why I switched out after SDing, because I actually do not have Triple Axle. I'm Ice Shard, Knockoff, Low Kick, and I definitely did not think he would risk Skarmory there. So I'm going to SD again as he roosts because I got to keep him low. Future Sight comes off. I go for the Fire Fang, get the flinch, and then I'm able to Scale Shot to a speed where I'm faster than Excadrill. And at this point, there's pretty much nothing on his team that can stop my Garchomp. Hippowdon can live, but even if you had Whirlwind, it wouldn't have prevented the inevitable. Oh, never mind. I needed another Scale Shot to outspeed Jolly Excadrill, which I assume he was. I need another Scale Shot to outspeed Adamant Excadrill as well, so it was pretty beneficial that Hippowdon both didn't have Whirlwind and I didn't miss any Scale Shots, and my Earthquake didn't KO. So definitely a fortunate series for me. Alright, let's go to top 16 playoffs. And I'm facing Comp, who I faced previously. And here is where I'm going to use that Greninja set that Starmaster used against me that I really like. This is an HO team that I built with Z Victini and this lead Greninja. So Lando leads. He's revealed to be Scarf Lando. And I taunt this guy, which I'm fine with. Unfortunately, T-Spikes are totally useless against Calm. I'm going to go into, I think this is an Explosion Landorus. Yeah, normal gem Explosion. And he's going to go for the Stone Edge there, but I am able to get a Dragon Dance off and Dragon Claw this Landorus with 2 layers of hazards up. He is zeroed him and uses that to KO my Charizard, but with this Heatran getting chipped and my Victini having Taunt Z Victini is one of my favorite sets, things are not looking too bad despite the fact that he has 5 Pokemon left. So yeah, he gets freed from Taunt there, and now I'm going to go in with my Victini. He has Roar, but I am the Z Celebrate thing, with Taunt to prevent scenarios just like this. Unfortunately, I don't have leftovers, or he has leftovers, and he's still doing some residual damage to me with Lava Plume. I'm really hoping for a bit of luck, some crits, some paras to help this sweep really happen. But he's not really getting parried at all. Although he does get parried that turn, that is what I was looking for. So now I'm just going to spam Stored Power. Although at this point I'm not at a level, an amount of HP where I can realistically go on a full team sweep, but he gets a crit there, which is actually very lucky for me because it means that my Magearna can come in and get a free special attack boost. Goes into Calm Mind Lottie, which barely hangs on, 5%, and I am going to go for my own Calm Mind as he goes Ferrothorn. I managed to hit through Para, which is, again, quite lucky. And we have a Magearna on Magearna showdown. He appears to be lefties. I believe I am Iapapa, so I expect to hopefully want a positive outcome here. As we Calm Mind alongside each other. Let's see, do I get parried? Get parried there. Can I take down this Magearna? No crit, Iapapa Berry activates, and I take down his Magearna, which means I only need to worry about his Rotom. Which goes for a Pain Split, and gets taken down. So my Magearna is able to do that. So let's move on to the Oras game, in which I'm using a team with a really cool set. It's actually a substitute Charge Beam Magnezone with that's meant to take advantage of Pharaoh and KO back mons like Hippowdon. And This team is one I built myself as well. Get rocks up. Then I made another over prediction. I thought he would switch into Lottie or something to threaten me, but he just stayed in with Clefable and manages to take down my Garchomp. I really should have just clicked EQ there. Ferrothorn comes in, but it has the Chople Berry. And that's a play I regret, because I thought if I switched in Magnezone here and I still had Zam and he went for a Gyro Ball, I would have been able to sub up and have a phenomenal position. I didn't think he would allow himself to just get KO'd back by the potential Specs Magnezone like that. But I am able to at least get my substitute and get a Charge Beam special attack raise and KO the Gengar. So already this Magnezone is presenting itself as a tremendous threat. Especially more so now that he misses the Hydro Pump and I get a crit raise on the Rotom. So the luck is certainly in my favor in this game. Lottie is not quite able to revenge KO me, but I don't have that Alakazam. Even though his Lottie is very chipped, I still have to deal with a full health Hippowdon that basically threatens everything I have. And that's why I really wish I just went immediately into Magnezone. If I had gone immediately into Magnezone on that Ferrothorn, I would have been in a much better spot. But now I basically have to sacrifice my drill to this, and I cannot really beat Hippowdon without a significant amount of luck. I'm going for Hurricanes there. He's slacking off. I basically just need to confuse him with Hurricanes and continue to get lucky. So I'm like, okay, he's in range, but I miss the Hurricane, and he breaks out of confusion and gets the slack off. And I miss another Hurricane. And another. I get a crit there into a Confuse, which is nice, into a Hurt and Confusion, so I'm like, maybe there's a chance. KO the Clef. Go for another Hurricane onto the Hippo. But I'm not getting the hit into Confusion that I need. Now I basically need an Iron Head flinch. I SD. He barely does not KO me. I Iron Head, and I get the flinch. So now I just need to Sucker Punch the Latias, and I barely decide to not click Knockoff there. He goes for Thunder Wave, and I get one Paralysis. Sucker Punch fails there. I get parried again, and he manages to KO me. Definitely a roller coaster of a game. And I really think if I didn't try to make so many plays and assumptions, this matchup certainly would have been mine. But I'm still proud that the team itself worked out and that my prep was good. It's just I played a little too reckless and made a few too many assumptions. Okay, and here's the final game, where I have another Garchomp offense team this time with Blacephalon against a stall with Tapu Koko. So immediately I'm forced to switch my Garchomp in. It's really bad if my Garchomp gets poisoned, because otherwise I honestly don't really have a Heatran answer. So honestly, though I do have some breakers, this is quite a tough matchup. Here we see some Clefable Wars. I try to sneak in. On this turn, I try to sneak in my Kartana on a knockoff or something, but he ends up just clicking Moonblast, which is really bad because that Skarmory still has its helmet. I basically have to switch in Blacephalon at this point and hope for a special defense drop. Thankfully, he does not click Roost there. Although, I probably should have expected him to click Roost on the Zapdos turn. And not go to Kartana, but yeah, that turn he does go to Gastro. He takes a decent amount from Hurricane. And I actually managed to get a knockoff on the Heatran, which is quite good for my Blacephalon, but Blacephalon is already at 76%. So, and he already has a Dragonite and a Gastrodon. And now my Garchomp is poisoned. So, to be honest, things are looking very, very grim for me. I try to Roost up there, and once again, it almost seems like one of my main win cons is Hurricane Confusions onto a ground type, in this case a Gastrodon. So Skarm comes out, sets spikes. We're both setting spikes, but it's probably worse for me because I have nothing to realistically knock off that Gastrodon. His team just has a lot more longevity than mine. And I hardly have anything to take on this Tapu Koko. So with my offensive core deteriorating and my Clefable getting heavy slammed by a Heatran, there is very little hope for me to actually do this. Unless I got like a confusion right there, but I would still have a tremendous issues beating a Roost Tapu Koko due to my Ferrothorn being burned. So yeah, everything just continues to get chipped. My Zapdos gets poisoned. And truly, at this point, I have nothing. I'd also like to point out, I haven't used Blacephalon once in this tournament. And my opponent just happened to bring a team that's excellent into Blacephalon. To be honest, I just think Blacephalon is not a good Pokemon. I absolutely should not have brought it. I think it's terrible. If there's one easy piece of advice I can give you from following this video, it is do not use Blacephalon in Gen 8. I just do not think it's good at all. Managed to KO the Clef, but he still has all three most important pieces of his defensive core intact. Ferrothorn or Gastrodon is going to KO Ferrothorn. I at least get the KO there, but he turns out to be a Dragon Dance Roost Dragonite. So after that, it's definitely over. there was a chance that if he wasn't Dragon Dance, we could have scale shotted him and actually won. But good team call on him to have a defensive Dragon Dance D-Knight on a stall team. Now, I got to top 16. I thought this was an excellent tournament. I had so much fun. But if there was one thing that I think I could take away from this tournament, it would be that in many cases, you can just make the obvious play. Like, you don't have to go for reads all the time. And I definitely didn't go for reads all the time. Like, I wasn't trying to predict every single turn. But I feel like there were definitely some turns that I didn't have to predict that I did, and it ended up costing me. So, yeah, I think it's a very important skill in competitive Pokemon to know when to predict and when to not. And I think in several of my games this tournament, I ended up over-predicting and over-reading my opponent. So, if there's one thing that I think I can work on based off that tournament, it is knowing when to make a read. Well, thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed me going over all of my Masters games from 2025, and have a great day.